Let's look through the papers in a bit more detail. And joining me to do that is the Conservative councillor and political commentator with Young Voices UK, Noah Khogali. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm really well. Ofgem have acted, and pretty swiftly, after the shocking findings from this undercover reporting from The Times. Why did it take, do you think, this undercover reporting? Because lots of these companies were saying before, we're not actually doing this.
I think this is what, when you're targeting vulnerable people, it's going to take longer for these kind of things to come out, because these people are in such a helpless position regardless, that they're going to be in a position where they, don't think they can go to the media. They don't think they have a voice, and they don't think they can spark this kind of public outrage. But they've proved that they can, and Ofgem has acted, which has been fantastic to see. They have asked companies beyond British Gas, so everybody essentially, to stop doing this kind of thing. But it is really, really scary at the same time to see the huge rise in numbers in warrants for breaking into people's homes essentially since 2019. So it's raised by almost 100,000. So that's potentially 100,000 more homes than in 2019 that have been essentially broken into by these gas companies to force fit new meters.
Yeah, one of the concerns is for how long this ban will last. I'm sure we'll have more details across the day on that here on Times Radio. Let's go to the front page of the Daily Telegraph if we can. And the headline says, lockdown damage to workforce is permanent. What's the basis behind that claim?
So essentially, people just have felt like they don't need to go back to work or don't want to go back to work. And I think this is especially prevalent in those industries and those jobs that you've seen, possibly take a bit more liberty over the years in terms of pay rises and in terms of conditions. So there's massive shortages in things like chefs now, because people have realised that they can have a far better quality of life and far easier time if they're not in that kind of industry. So you're going to have to see a long-term adaptation from lots of these kind of jobs to either change the way that they work, massively increase pay, or serious action from the government to have more targeted immigration to bring people into these kind of roles, or this will be permanent. Nothing necessarily has to stay like it is forever in a modern economy. The government can do things to fix problems, but if the government doesn't act, then lots of these industries are going to seriously struggle if they don't change themselves.
Well, the Chancellor's real headache is, how does he persuade those people to come back into the workforce? How does he do that?
It's really, really difficult. Either it will happen naturally because of a rising cost of living, but one would expect that would probably have happened already. We've heard talk about tax breaks for people coming back into the workforce for over 50s. I think that would be an absolutely disastrous policy and be really damaging for the Conservatives, especially in terms of their reputation for those young people who, admittedly, they already really struggle with. So, whilst that was mooted a few weeks ago, I think it probably was cast out of hand. So it is a real challenge, and I don't think anybody really knows the answer. But there has to be serious consideration as well when you look at people like doctors, that some of the tax issues make it less profitable for them to stay in work rather than retire early. And that is a serious, serious problem.
One question that's definitely going to be asked today, and The Guardian are doing it on the front page here, is you could get more money with higher windfall taxes. Their front page is calls for tougher windfall tax after Shell posts their, quoting, obscene record profits. Is that a potential strategy?
I think probably not. And I think The Guardian and lots of Labour MPs who will be parroting this are too intelligent to think this is a genuine strategy. Realistically, Shell is not going to pay that much tax in the UK because it doesn't actually make that much profit in the UK. And the profit that it does make in the UK is offset by investments and decommissioning costs. So either you encourage them to continue investing in things like renewables and decommissioning, or you just take that money straight off them and spend it how you want to. You can't do both. And that is the serious problem, because lots of these numbers getting reported are international profits. And we can't just go and start taxing, profits that they're making in other countries perpetually. That's not how economies work. And that would be incredibly difficult and probably not legal to do. So, big numbers are scary, and that is a genuine problem. And questions can be asked about why they're making such huge amounts of money when people are struggling. But realistically, the 500 million that they're expecting to pay in 2023 anyway in the UK in terms of a windfall tax, is probably the highest they're going to pay regardless. They're always going to find ways out of it. And if you want to encourage investment, you can't just take all the money off.
I mean, how do you answer accusations, from example, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, who says no company should be making these kind of outrageous profits out of Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine?
It's a very good point, but these calls are also coming from people who don't really believe in private companies making profit anyway. It's ideologically consistent for them to just call for the government to strip profits off of companies. I have a personal issue with it, but you can't just start going around and taking money off every company that is successful. That's not a way to inspire confidence for investment, and it's not a way to inspire companies to come to the UK and operate in the UK. Whilst it might be a very easy short-term fix where we can click our fingers and take some money off of companies, if you want a successful long-term economy, companies have to be confident that they can come to the UK and operate in a manner that protects their business model. And, we can't just be taking money off of companies whenever they make it.
Or in some cases you can, as The Guardian and other people are arguing, maybe they should take more. Let's move on to another story. Universities to protect free speech. Cancelled academics, I'm reading from The Telegraph here, and students will have a route to sue institutions under the Higher Education Bill. Do you think this is needed?
I think probably. I was at university not too long ago, and I was in Northern Ireland. It was made quite clear that there was the correct opinions and the opinions that were going to get you forcibly marked down, and things you could and couldn't say, and almost things that you could and couldn't think. And whilst none of them were...
Did you feel like your freedom of speech was sort of restrained at university?
Absolutely. Especially as somebody, on the centre right, it was absolutely something that was... There was things you should and shouldn't have said in class, and tutorial leaders and lecturers made very clear their political opinion and what was going to get you good marks. And it was something you had to learn early on, that you couldn't actually write what you thought in essays. You had to write what was going to appease the marker, who were overwhelmingly on the left of politics. And I think that's something that exists across universities. The route to suing the university is slightly different, and you have to kind of exhaust all other options. And in terms of marking, that's not something you can probably prove, but it is something that could potentially readdress this power imbalance that exists at universities between the institution and students, that we've especially seen over the strikes, and the assumption from universities that they're this all-powerful, all organisation that can do what it wants with the students, rather than remembering that the students are in fact its customers, and that it should be tailoring its output to their needs.
If you got the artificial intelligence chatbot to write your essay, there are some accusations it could be a little bit more left-leaning. But there's been concerns from teachers and academics that people are going to use it to help them with their homework. Well, in the Times, page 18 today, it says the creators are trying to make amends after its chatbot started a plagiarism boom among students. Would you ever use AI to sort of cheat your way through an essay?
No, I don't think it would be cheating. I think this is an incredible opportunity for our education system to really look at itself, look at where it sits in the modern world, and evolve. We now have a tool that potentially could be 1 million times more powerful than something like Google. And we're going to have to consider whether these memory-based assessments essentially are in fact the best way to check students' ability, or whether it should actually be analytical skills and other things that can't be done by a robot, or else we're going to evolve into a workplace where essentially everybody is replaceable. We have to work out what makes us different and embed that within the education system, not just kind of continue with what we've done for 200 years and hope that the technology doesn't eventually replace us. I think that's everybody's fear with the modern workplace. So we should probably be fighting against that at school rather than just letting it happen.
There we go. I think I can't really work out if you'd be a nightmare student or a brilliant one. Were you a goody two-shoes at school?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'd probably switch between the two a little bit.
I can imagine. Thank you very much for joining me this morning to go through the papers. Noah Khogali is a Conservative councillor and political commentator with Young Voices UK. Much appreciated, Noah.
Thank you.